I'm going to talk about masks and vaccines, especially in the light of how many people we have in this country that refuse to get vaccinated against COVID. They refuse to wear masks. They try to claim it's all some kind of vast conspiracy, which, why would somebody have a conspiracy that would kill hundreds of thousands of people? It doesn't make much of any sense. But I haven't seen anybody bother to talk about other vaccines on other diseases. And there have been many diseases that vaccines have been developed for, and they worked. And the vaccines weren't part of a vast conspiracy or anything. They just plain worked. Some of the examples, anthrax, cure found late 1800s. Number of people that died last year because of anthrax in the U.S., 0. Why? Nobody. Because the vaccines had worked, and over time the disease gets eliminated. Cholera. The only thing I could find for cholera was very rare to die from cholera. Why? People got vaccinated, and over time the disease pretty much gets wiped out. Cowpox. This is an old one. It was when women would go out and milk cows. This was back, way before women's rights. And they would get cowpox. And vaccine got developed for that. Number of people that died from cowpox last year, U.S., 0. Now, hepatitis A and hepatitis B, there were around 900 people that died last year from it. Now, I don't know why. I don't know if they didn't take vaccines, if they had other problems or something, but there were people that died. It could have been more, but there were still too many. Influenza, about 36,000 people died. Now, as far as I know, influenza is not a shop you go to. You just go to the little doctor and, give me a whole bunch of these things. If you're older, they're going to ask you, do you want your influenza shot? So that 36,000 died probably indicates that the importance of getting vaccinated against that hasn't really been made yet. Measles, last year, number of deaths, 0. Again, the vaccines. Mumps, number of deaths, probably 0. Vaccines. Polio, at one time, terrible disease. You've probably seen pictures of young people, especially teenagers and younger, on crutches with these long metal braces on their legs because of the polio. If it got really bad, they ended up in an iron lung. 2 vaccines got made for that. How many people died of polio last year in the U.S.? 0. Rabies. Cure found 1885. Number of people that died last year from rabies, 5. Smallpox. Number of people that died last year from smallpox, 0. Tetanus. Now, tetanus, you go outside or something, you get cut on a rusted nail or some other kind of rusted metal. You go to the doctor, you get your tetanus shot. It's good for around 7 years. Fewer than 10 people in the country died of tetanus last year because of these shots. typhoid fever. You don't really hear about that because nobody died from it. It's not a problem anymore in the United States. Now there is one thing to keep in mind, is you might not get a vaccine automatically for something and then go to another country and catch it there and come back with it. I read about those cases happening. But at least in the United States, 0. Typhus, number of people that died of typhus last year is written down as rare. Yellow fever used to be a major problem till they got the vaccine. Number of people that died last year in the United States from yellow fever, 0. So let's look at COVID. Now I checked this morning on the internet, and these figures of course are going to be a little bit out of date already. The number of people that have died of COVID is 873,564. Now let's put this in some kind of perspective, which again I haven't seen anybody else bother to do, and I think it's important. World War II, the atomic bombing of Hiroshima, killed approximately 100,000 people. We've had almost 9 times that many people die from a disease that could be avoided because we have the vaccines for it, we have protective measures for it, and people are saying no, it's all part of a conspiracy, and these people aren't really dying from COVID, or they're not dying at all. Well, when you die, a medical examiner or doctor has to put down on your death certificate why you died. What did you die from? Either 873,000 plus medical examiners and doctors have lied, or that many people really did die from COVID. Now, another thing that I don't see talked about very often. So, another thing that I haven't seen much of anybody talk about is the effects of your being sick on others and the responsibility that you bear to others. Now, if you die of COVID, actually if you die of anything, let's just be straight out, you die of anything, you're going to leave some people behind, very probably, who will be emotionally suffering because of your death. Especially if it's a totally unnecessary death, like somebody being murdered, unnecessary death. Somebody dying because of a disease that there was a vaccine for, that there were preventative measures for, equally stupid, wrong, unnecessary. If you end up with COVID, you go to the hospital, that's not a freebie. American health costs are awfully high. Somebody's going to end up being held responsible for paying the bill. It's not going to be you, because you're going to be dead. So somebody behind you, somebody you left behind, is going to have to deal with that. Then there's the issue of personal responsibility, which people don't really want to say anything about. But we are responsible for how we treat other people. And I don't care what you're talking about. You're still going to be responsible for treating others. If you're abusive to others, that's on you. That's your responsibility to try to be at least decent to other people. If you can't be nice to other people, avoid them. You know? And if you go out with no mask and you don't bother to get any of the vaccinations, and you develop COVID, then you pass that along to others. Innocent people who end up with the disease that you got because you didn't do what was necessary. That's on you. That's just like if you're drunk while you're driving and you hit somebody and you kill somebody, that's your fault. It's not a government conspiracy. It's not some pretend thing. You were drunk, you killed them. If you have COVID and you go out with no protection, with no viruses, there is a good chance you can transmit that to somebody else. We have a personal responsibility to others. If you want to look at a biblical approach to this, you've got the golden rule. Do unto others as you would have them do unto you. A Buddhist approach, do not harm others. If you can't help them, don't hurt them. All you have to do is understand that all of these conspiracies are wrong, that you've got a lot of totally irresponsible politicians and totally irresponsible YouTubers, I guess trying to make a buck, who knows, that are claiming, this doesn't exist, it's a government conspiracy, these people aren't dying, but they're dying. And when you look at the numbers of the other diseases that we have developed vaccines for and that people have used, and we now have no deaths: anthrax, cholera, cowpox, measles, mumps, polio, smallpox, typhoid fever, typhus, yellow fever, 0, rabies, 5. They work. The vaccines work. So understand you have a responsibility. Understand there are people that are lying to you about the conspiracy. Understand that the history of vaccines being used against diseases is very, very, very clear. The vaccines work. But if people don't get vaccinated, they're not going to work. So do your share. Consider it your responsibility to other people. You can consider it a patriotic duty. Get a mask. Wear a mask whenever you go out. Get the vaccinations. I've had both of my regular ones, plus the booster. No trouble. Stop the unnecessary deaths. Do your part.